heard a lot about theory and how to implement, etc., but to do it is another thing. I call it to go from a tanker to a speedboat, because that's what you're actually trying to do. You're trying to get from a waterfall method or a kind of an old-fashioned organization, you're trying to get it more agile. Let me start by talking a little bit about Tele2. Tele2 is a company with 11 countries, more than 30 million customers. As I said, I was CIO in Austria as well, where 4 years ago, first time I implemented Agile. This is the Netherlands, just to give you an idea how big the company is. We have 880 employees. We have more than 1 million customers. Well, these are actually the figures I could present due to the stock exchange. But we have a lot of big corporate customers. With 880 employees, we still decided to go for Agile. Within the IT department, we're currently with approximately 120 employees and approximately 80 consultants. So a huge department as well. Tele2 as such is a value-driven company. I mean, there were questions about how you do with culture, how you do with different nationalities in the team. I think we have about 12 to 15 nationalities in my department only. So it is possible, and it's possible because you have one culture. We are a value-driven company who has a culture of flexibility, openness, challenging, all fitting absolutely the agile method of implementation. Maybe a bit about myself. I'm the CIO of Tele2 Netherlands, but also commercially responsible for one of our business units called Internelnet, where we do the hosting part. So next to IT, being commercial absolutely helps in implementing this. There are a lot of phases which has been described. I'm more of a no guts, no glory kind of person. So we do the big bang. We just did it all at once. I stepped in 1st of June last year in this position, and on the 20th of June we did a big reorganization in the company, which I, together with my peers, decided to not only change IT, but also change all the other departments to have an interface towards IT. And then I told them we're going to do Scrum. So we did it the other way around. So were people worried about their spots? Yes. But because everybody was insecure, we, at the same time, moved in the BBNet company. We integrated that. We added 300 people to the organization. And we did Agile at the same time. So, with all due respect for all the faces, I think you just need to go fast. The whole idea is to focus on business value. I mean, show the people what they're going to get. How did I manage to get it in to Tele2? Well, it's quite simple. I told my CEO, when I had, although being in Tele2 for 10 years, you still need to do 5 job interviews to start becoming the CIO of the Tele2 Netherlands. I told him, I'm not going to take this job if I can't do Scrum. It's also a way to convince management, actually, to see how much they wanted me as such. Let me put it that way. So instead of talking about beautiful lease cars, etc., I said, I want to do Scrum. Otherwise, I do not start. Which he said that was fine. I'm not really sure if he really understood what it meant, but that's a little bit. But also the commitment from your peers. I mean, the other managing directors are commercial people from consumer, business, etc. One of them I worked with in Austria, so he had seen the whole process in Austria, what we've done. So getting commitment from them is very important. It's not just the CEO, it's the people in the business. We talk about customers. I hear everybody talking about the customers in their organization. For me, they're my colleagues. I have customers outside. Inside, we are doing things together, because that, for me, is how Agile works, doing things together. And seeing them as customers kind of takes away the whole working together with the business thing. Frank Klomp, he's one of my managers, he's sitting here. It took me 3 months, or actually 2 months, to convince him to take the job and that we would go for Scrum, because he had this beautiful creative Excel sheet with waterfall, and I mean, really, really impressive. I didn't understand them. Now he is my, well, I'm not allowed to say preacher, but he's walking through the organization and preaching, spreading the word, and everybody in the organization started loving them. I mean, we're doing it now, well, we're working for it for a year, but we actually did the switch last October from waterfall to agile because you still have some old projects that you need to do. And I think we are doing really, really well. The thing is, you need to repeat yourself over and over and over again. If you think you're there, you're only halfway there. I mean, agile people tend to think, oh, it's another IT project and etc. It's not. I mean, it's a major shift. And getting everybody enthusiastic, etc. I mean, we're handing out T-shirts with Scrum Master on the back and those kind of things. I mean, really do fun things in order to get it implemented. Well, I don't have to explain to you why we want to do Scrum. Maybe some of you, I mean, we have shorter cycles, we're going to do things quicker, etc., etc. But Gartner's study shows that if you do Scrum for several years, you lose your long-term focus on architecture because you have an emerging architecture. So how do you solve that? Because you need to know where you're going as well in 10 years from now, especially if you have a large company. If you're a small company, you do it a little bit in the software development, it's fine. But if you're going to do it company-wide, you need to know also where you're heading in 10 years. Approximately, it will change anyway every quarter, but at least you have to have an idea where you want to go to. So what we've done, we have a small group of 6 people, which is called the CIO office. And they have the governance for the architecture, long-term architecture. They're not allowed to interfere with the small architectural decisions that are done in the sprints. But they will guide us towards the long run. Are we going to kick out one system? Are we going to implement the monster called Siebel? I mean, all these long-term decisions you do not want to do in your little agile team. So that's why we have a department doing that. Offshore. Actually, we were advised not to go directly for offshore. We did, of course. We had already offshore teams. They were working with us waterfall. So actually, we convinced them, and that's maybe your answer to your question, how do you manage your vendors? Maybe you can talk to Frank later on, because what we did, we convinced them to go for Scrum. I mean, it's the next big thing. I mean, it's like agile, cloud computing. I mean, everybody talks about it. Many people don't understand, and even fewer have implemented it. So the guys in India were like, yeah, I think this is the next thing. So actually, they adapted their processes. And what we did, we adapted the contract. Because normally with these Indian partners, you have a contract which says, okay, this number of hours, this number of things, and you send the requirements, and that's it. So actually, we have now implemented a contract where they get a kickback. We talk with them. They are with us in the sessions. They are with us in the stand-up meetings via video conferencing, etc. And together we define the scope. And if they do it quicker and better, they get a kickback or an incentive, actually. So we reduce money because they do it faster, and they get an incentive for doing it faster as well. Which is kind of taking it away from a vendor-customer thing, but more like a partnership. And, well, there were some companies which were quickly to be adapting, but now all of them adapted. At one point, it's quite simple. They want your money, and that needs to be done on your way. And then one thing nobody talks about, Scrum. I spent a shitload of money on facilities. I mean, really, I don't know how many whiteboards, Post-it, magnets, microphones, etc. Every day I see an invoice. I think I spent so much. It's amazing. We actually have got now in our department, we've got a Scrum board, which is 7 meters wide. 2 of them, which kind of also is like in a corridor. It didn't fit through the stairs, so they had to take away the windows and the whole thing had to go in. I mean, the whole company was looking, what the hell are they doing at IT? But actually, now it's finally mounted, and it actually works. I mean, we have so many video conferencing, etc., because of India, people working at home. You have Skype, you've got microphones. I mean, I call them the SingStar microphones, because everybody's standing at the Scrum board with the SingStar like this and talking to them, and in the meantime being filmed and having screens, so it feels really like they're having one team meeting, regardless of the location. Because, I mean, doing everything on site. I mean, we now currently have 10 Scrum teams, and we're going for 5 more. I don't have the space. I don't know where I need to put all these people. So, facilities. And buy these really good magnets which you can erase again, or buy shares at 3M, because the whole Post-it thing is brilliant, really. And then Scrum, I mean, it's a very beautiful theory, but I don't know how it works with you, but I need to do financial planning. I mean, I'm having tomorrow a meeting about what I'm going to spend in Q4. It doesn't really fit with the whole Scrum methodology, saying, okay, the next 3 weeks. And my 5-year plan is already in the make as well, so what do? We adopted it a bit. What we're doing is we're saying we have a roadmap, which we call the pizza sessions, because they always happen at night with a pizza, etc., where we decide together on the roadmap for the next year. And every quarter, we decide, okay, what's the difference? What can we do differently? Does it fit, etc.? So that doesn't really change. We call it a little bit as an agile Gantt chart. It's not copyrighted yet, so if somebody wants to steal that. We make plans, but we adopt it all the time. But we need to go, I mean, we're a multinational as well. We need to go to our headquarters in Sweden and say, hi, I would like to have some money as well. And they are not okay with me saying, I'm not really sure what I'm going to build yet, but I'm sure it has a business benefit. No, it just needs to have hard business cases, etc. I mean, if it doesn't fit in Excel, we do not get it approved. Then also we introduced something called a story owner. I know, I mean, the whole idea of Scrum is, of course, you have a product owner who can set priorities and knows the stuff. I don't know how it is in your organization, but I don't have people who know everything. We have people who are responsible for a certain area and they can set the priorities, but they do not know the nitty-gritty details about the processes, etc., etc. So we implemented story owners, and those know the nitty-gritty details. They stand in the stand-up meetings every day and they explain what we want. And then last Scrum of Scrums. As we have so many business units, so many different teams, I do not have the beautiful architecture that every system is in one team. So it could be that in the consumer team, the developers are for a certain system, but we need something to be developed for business as well. So that's where we use the Scrum of Scrum, because you kind of get the whole crossovers. And I mean, I would like to go for a separate architecture for every business unit. And according to my plans, I will be there in 2017. But until then, we are going to use it. Coaching. Well, we have ProAwareness as our coaches. They're working in our company right now since October last year. You need them. The whole thing is everybody reads the theory books and then starts working on it. And then everybody thinks, okay, I know how it works. But as soon as you start doing all kinds of things, you really need to have the coaches on the job. They were not really visible in our organization, because so I make them wear orange polo shirts, which they really hate. But but honestly, it works, because they walk around with this orange polo shirts, and everybody knows that that's the Scrum coaches. So also from other departments who are more and more implementing Scrum as well are coming towards them and asking questions. I mean, we did a kickoff for the entire company. We did trainings on IT. We did trainings for business. We're doing it company-wide. I think if I have to guess, I think about 50 to 60% of our organization is already working with Scrum. In Austria, I did not use coaches to implement it. You can. But what I noticed in Austria, I mean, first of all, it was like a third of the organization compared to the Netherlands. And second of all, it took much longer to get things done. And you have to trust that the people who are implementing it can also have the helicopter view to see if things can be improved continuously. And that's really good to have coaches for that and to tell you what you're doing wrong and tell me also what we're doing wrong. Because I think the next one is managing Scrum. I mean, we talked about it. You don't. You make sure it's implemented. You make sure that the whole surrounding is done so people can excel. But don't start managing it. Your team needs to fail, and then you just need to sit there and like, oh my God, I hope they learn. Because that's what you need to do, and that's the hardest part. Because the most Because the moment they fail, and they will fail the first couple of times, they will. I mean, that's a guarantee. You have a performance dip. What you need to do is manage your peers, manage the business out there and say, okay, guys, I know, yeah, we fucked up, but we will be fine next time. And you have to give them the trust that it will be fine next time, because it will, and it will be even better than before. But you have to take that hit. I mean, do it like me in the middle of the reorganization, then nobody notices. But, I mean, generally, I mean, you need to manage your people. And celebrate your victories. I mean, this is one of our corporate values, actually. Celebrate your victories. Do it. How small it is, you need to celebrate. I mean, one of the first things I did, I removed a couple of desks and we created a little living room where we have beer on Friday, etc., etc. Make it fun. And I think the most important part as well is if you take a look at people, which in the end, your department or your company is as good as your people are. The people that you were before in the old method, I'm not really sure if this person is going to make it. Maybe we should, I don't know, say goodbye to the person. 90% of them excel when they do agile. Suddenly they are more independent, they can come up with creative ideas, etc. I mean, the number of bad performance has gone down dramatically since we're doing agile. Because the fun thing is, it's not the person, it's the team that fails. And you get, I mean, that concept is a bit bad in the beginning because the team has failed and then there's one person, yeah, but he didn't do his job. And then saying, yeah, but it's the whole team. And that kind of takes a while before it sets in. But when it sets in, it's I mean, I'm absolutely stunned by what we're doing. Flexible. As with every IT thing, as soon as we have done a new working method or a new way of doing things, then we rigidly implement it because we are IT people and we love being a little bit rigid. Don't do that. I mean, Scrum is a method, but I mean, it is a very good theory, but sometimes the practice doesn't match with the theory. Then adopt it. And that's where coaches can help you as well. You need to adopt whenever you need it for your organization. Within my company, I think it starts to become a religion. And that's getting a bit scary as well. I mean, everything is Scrum. The other day, there was a person coming to my billing department, like, oh, can you help me with this? Yeah, we can sit down and talk about it. Oh, great, Scrum. No, not everything is Scrum. Everybody's like, okay, working together is not always directly Scrum. So it's a little bit difficult. And as again, if you think if you're there halfway through, if you think you're done, you're not. I mean, I talked to Rini in August last year, and I was like, well, I want to implement before the end of the year. As said, no guts, no glory. We did. But then we were halfway through. Now we are fine-tuning, now we're improving, etc. But the business already noticed it in November, December. When our CEO stood in front of the whole company in January, he said, I'm not hearing any complaints about IT anymore. I hear IT complaining that the business is not fast enough. That's something you would like to hear. I mean, the biggest benefit, the business is enthusiastic. I mean, the time to market is reducing. We're delivering on time. If we do things wrongly, they actually asked for it, so they can only blame themselves. I mean, they are happy, which means that we can get customers in quicker. I mean, we can increase our revenue. And we're doing huge projects as well. I mean, as you saw in one of the first slides, we're doing O2 2010. I don't know if you followed the press a little bit, but KPN us. Well, in the end, it was us. We had 90 days to approximately deliver 1,100 man days of work. We have, according to my screensaver this morning, 12 days to go, and we're on track. I mean, I stood in front of the whole department as soon as this was signed. I was like, okay, this is what we've been training for. This is the Champions League, how to do 1,100 man days work in 90 days. And we're doing it with Scrum. Normally it would take 3 months of planning, etc. We don't have the time. So for us, the way forward, I mean, we're spreading Agile within the company. Release automation and test automation, we're not there yet. I mean, we're doing a lot, but having it fully done with all these old legacy systems, etc., that takes a while. And I guess it's the same with all of you. But you can still do Scrum without having everything perfect. And then just invest in money in implementing in automation, etc. And we're doing agile operations. I see my Unix engineers doing now Scrum, etc., which is kind of funny to see as well. And we're doing things with application management, and we're implementing it slowly, but also on the business side, on the custom operations, etc., they're doing agile. So it is, people really like it. So, in short, I would say, go for it. I mean, people talking about phases and how do we manage this, don't. Just decide you're going to go for it and go. Because the longer you think about it, the more things you see that's going to be a problem. But it can't get any worse than what you have now. It will only get better. And use the coaches. Then it goes quicker, faster, and and the internal preachers, as they call them, use a couple of people that are really passionate about agile. And if not, make them passionate about agile and then let them run through the company. I mean, if you really love agile, then it's quicker to do. And make sure, because we're talking about a lot about software development, etc., but it's not only an IT game. I mean, without the business, you can't do agile. So get them on board. I mean, I think that is definitely, and I think there are many companies like ProAwareness as well, who's doing agile also in sales. I mean, our sales guys are starting with agile as well. I mean, if you go for customer-centric selling, more customer focus, you need to go agile. So just not only focus it on software, start with that maybe. But I would say start with a big bang as well. Thanks.
This video blog is sponsored by ProAwareness.